Once upon a time in the vibrant town of Despatch, just outside Port Elizabeth, two best friends, Frans and Ruth, decided to tie the knot in the grandest way possible, a wedding that would be remembered by all, especially for one very special cake. Now, Frans and Ruth were the kind of couple who loved to laugh, embrace every moment, and enjoy a little mischief. And when it came to choosing the wedding cake, they wanted something unique, something that would stand out and leave their guests talking for years. After all, they had one thing in common: both were absolute CookSister connoisseurs. Naturally, they turned to Despatch's famous CookSister Tannies, Hanna and Anna, known for their legendary CookSisters and aromatic coffee. They had heard stories of the CookSister Tannies bakery and knew that these two sisters could create the wedding cake of their dreams. But there was a catch: the sisters were not exactly known for sticking to traditional baking rules. Hanna, with her uncontainable creativity, and Anna, who loved to experiment with coffee and desserts, immediately agreed to take on the task. "We'll make the most unique wedding cake ever," Hanna said enthusiastically. "We'll use CookSisters as the base and fill it with layers of coffee-flavored syrup and frothy cream." Frans and Ruth were thrilled. They didn't care about the traditional white wedding cake, they were ready for a showstopper. So, they left Hanna and Anna to work their magic and eagerly awaited their masterpiece. The day of the wedding arrived, and everything was going splendidly. The sun was shining, guests were arriving, and the couple was in high spirits. But then, it was time to unveil the cake. The grand moment had come. As the cake was wheeled into the hall, all eyes were on it. It was a towering structure, 3 layers of giant golden CookSisters, each one syrup-drenched and stacked high. The guests gasped in awe, wondering how this concoction would taste. But, as they say, looks can be deceiving. The moment the knife was plunged into the first layer of the CookSister wedding cake, it was clear that something had gone horribly wrong. Instead of the usual soft, syrupy, and gooey texture that everyone knew and loved, the cake was unusually firm. Almost like a brick. Frans and Ruth exchanged awkward glances, and the guests waited in suspense. Anna, standing proudly beside the cake, whispered, "I might have added a little too much syrup." The moment the knife was pulled out, a flood of syrup gushed out, soaking the surrounding plates, tablecloth, and, to everyone's horror, the bride's dress. It wasn't just syrup, it was a torrent of liquid, making the cake look like it had exploded from within. It was a disaster, a sugary disaster, but no one could hold back their laughter. Even the bride and groom burst into giggles as they saw the cake collapse before them. But it wasn't over yet. As the guests leaned in for a closer look, they noticed something strange. The top layer, which had been expertly shaped into a heart, began to shift. The layers were sliding off one by one. The CookSisters were so syrupy and soft that they couldn't hold the structure of the cake. They began to collapse, the heart shape transforming into a shapeless blob of sticky dough. "No," cried Anna, panicking. "I swear it was meant to be elegant." The guests couldn't contain themselves anymore. The room erupted in laughter as the cake slowly crumbled into a sticky, syrupy mess. It was as though the cake had taken on a life of its own and was rebelling against the very idea of being a wedding cake. But here's where the magic happened: despite the chaos, the couple and their guests couldn't have been happier. Frans and Ruth, covered in syrup and laughing uncontrollably, embraced the absolute absurdity of the situation. The cake, although it had disastrously fallen apart, was still delicious. The CookSisters were as heavenly as ever, despite the wayward syrup, and everyone couldn't stop tasting the gooey mess. "Who needs a perfect cake anyway?" Frans shouted through the laughter. "We've got CookSisters." Anna and Hanna were mortified, but they too joined in the laughter. "Well, at least we can say it was a memorable cake." In the end, the CookSister wedding cake became the highlight of the wedding, not for its grace or perfection, but for its unpredictability and the joy it brought to everyone. The couple's big day was unforgettable, and every guest left with syrup stains on their clothes and the memory of the wildest, most entertaining cake disaster ever. And so, Frans and Ruth's wedding went down in Despatch history as the CookSister wedding cake fiasco, a hilarious disaster that turned into one of the most cherished moments of their lives. It wasn't the wedding cake they'd expected, but it was the one they would never forget. And to this day, the CookSister Tannies still bake their CookSisters with love and passion, though they may have learned to take it easy on the syrup. These films have been created to highlight the powerful features of Polyspeaks for You, South Africa's leading accessibility software. Learn more at www.polyspeaksforyou.co.za. We invite you to support this meaningful dyslexic initiative, crafted and developed by an individual who personally understands the challenges of dyslexia.